Welcome to the Collaborative. I'm your host, Sydnee Walker, along with Toni Hall, who is filling in as co-host for Ryan Ballis. Today, we are joined by ESPN Senior MLB Insider, Jeff Passan. He contributes as an on-field reporter for Monday Night Baseball and Wednesday Night Baseball. Jeff appears as a regular on ESPN studio shows, including Get Up and Baseball Tonight, writes for ESPN.com, and is a frequent guest on ESPN podcasts such as ESPN Daily and Baseball Tonight. Prior to ESPN, he spent 13 years at Yahoo Sports. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And big day for you. Congratulations on the extension. Well deserved.
Thank you. It's I got a cool job and I work with great people, and as long as I can keep fooling them, I'm going to do it.
So first up, we have Sid's This or That Travel Edition. So first up, hotel or Airbnb?
Ooh, am I traveling for work or with my family?
We'll say with your family.
Oh, Airbnb.
Mountains or beach?
Yes.
Which one?
I'll take both. But if I was given the choice, beach.
I'm going with beach too.
All right.
Plane or road trip?
How long's the road trip? Actually, I know these are yes or no questions. I feel like I'm failing at this game.
It's okay. We'll say a 10-hour road trip.
Plane. Yeah. Like I've got like a 5-hour limit in the car. And at that point, I need to drink Diet Mountain Dew to stay awake. And that's not good for anyone.
My limit's 8 hours, but I'm taking a plane too.
Yeah.
And last but not least, West Coast or East Coast?
Midwest.
Oh. All right. Thank you for answering those.
What an answer, Jeff. Thank you.
I mean, I've lived in Kansas. I lived in Kansas City for the last 12 or 13 years. I grew up in Cleveland. Like I gotta stay real to my people. It's always like an East Coast, West Coast. No, like the Midwest exists. There are human beings who are there. We're real too.
Looking back over your childhood, where did that passion and love for sports essentially stem from?
My father worked at the Cleveland Plain Dealer in the sports department for 42 years. So I grew up in the business. I was around newspapers my whole childhood. I was around sports all the time and was just drawn to all of the great things about it, the athleticism, the intellect, the competitiveness. And, I'm 5'9", like $175. I was never going to be a pro athlete. And if I wasn't going to be a pro athlete, then combining the love I have for journalism with sports was just a natural evolution for me.
Prior to joining ESPN, you were at Yahoo Sports. As you made the transition from feature writing to more breaking news, what did you see as your biggest learning lesson?
Oh God, it was terrible. I sucked at the job for a long time. And the biggest lesson is to do something different. You have to be willing to fail and understand that you're not going to be great at something when you start off. And that goes for walking when you're a toddler. It goes for riding a bike when you're a kid. And it goes for switching jobs or at least the duty of your job when you're older. And it's a hard thing when you feel like you've been competent your whole life at things to understand that maybe taking, one step back will allow you to take multiple steps forward in the future. But patience is probably the answer. Patience and just the value of relationships. I think I always understood how important relationships are, not just in this business, but in life. But I don't know that I recognized the value of them to this particular job, and how you have to have people trust you, and you have to have people look at you as somebody who they're going to tell things to that maybe they're not supposed to, or maybe they shouldn't, but they feel like you're going to handle the story well enough that if you put the legwork in, if you put the time in and get to know them, they can trust you, then they're going to look out for you.
So being a journalist and being in the world of sports that is constantly changing and evolving, can you share with us maybe like a challenge you faced along your journey and how you've overcome those hurdles?
I mean, I think one good example is just transitioning from being more on the feature side to the news breaking. And I still dabble in feature stuff. I still get more enjoyment out of that, honestly, than I do anything just telling a good story. But I think knowing that the business and the world really is constantly changing, you have to be open-minded about things that you don't know and be willing to educate yourself and ask others to educate you on what those things are. And right now, perfect example of that, gambling in sports is becoming a very big thing. I'm not a gambler because I suck at it and I lose money all the time. And so I just don't do it. So I don't know that world, but that world is becoming so prevalent, not just in baseball, but across sports right now, that it's my responsibility to educate myself because, my job is to inform people about things. And I'm not going to go out there half-cocked telling people that I think this is what it is. No, I need to know before I say. And it's the knowledge that you need to have such a wide breadth of areas that you need to understand that keeps this job challenging and fulfilling and great. And I know a lot of people suffer from burnout with their jobs, and I totally get that. I'm lucky I've never had that, because even though I'm covering the same sport that I have for nearly 2 decades now, it still feels fresh every day. It still feels like there's a new story to tell.
There's a stigma that the MLB has a hard time marketing its players. This year, there's a lot of conversation around Shohei Ohtani. How do you think his progression as a player versus his media attention will determine his legacy?
It's a good question, because I think if they were equal, then Shohei Ohtani would be one of the most well-known athletes in the world. And I think right now he's still a mystery to a lot of people because he hasn't been put out there and marketed like he should be. And listen, that's the fault of a lot of people. And I sit here and I try and write about him as much as I can because I find him to be a fascinating character, person, everything about him. But I ask everyone in the room here, what do you know about Shohei Ohtani other than he kicks ass at baseball? Nothing. And I'm not sitting here saying that we know everything about Patrick Mahomes' life or LeBron James's life. Like, the idea that athletes are going to completely peel back the curtain isn't particularly realistic. But in Ohtani's case, this is somebody who at 23 years old decided to forego hundreds of millions of dollars, which is what he would have gotten if he had stayed in Japan for a few more years and played, to come and pursue his dream, which is play against the best players in the world, leave behind everything he knows, and try and prove himself on the biggest stage. And the fact that he's done that in the way he has, it's an incredible story to me, and one I wish that we were able to tell in a little more detail, and one that hopefully we're going to be able to, because I want to go to Japan this off season and hang with Shohei. Like, I just want to see what it's like there and see what he's like in his natural environment.
I really appreciate your perspective on that. It's really been amazing watching him this past season.
Yeah, it's fun. I was, I say I have the coolest job in the world. Like, I was there on the field at the home run derby all-star weekend. He was going to be pitching the next day, starting and hitting leadoff. It was like nothing we've ever seen before. And just being in Ohtani's presence, he's got this aura about him that's very cool. That, there's no arrogance there. He's extremely well liked by teammates, but he's just so good. And seeing that type of performance in person, it's awe-inspiring. There's really no other word.
With being in a profession where there's a lot of rewards, but there's a lot of long nights and hours of gathering content, and also a lot of time away from your family, what is it about baseball that keeps you coming back season after season?
The fact that I've been doing it forever. Like, that's the reality. I mean, I could go and cover football, or I could go and cover basketball, but I've been doing baseball for so long now that all the people who I've gotten to know, all the relationships that I have, make the job palatable so I can see my family, and so I can spend time, instead of building up my source base like you have to do when you start off on another sport. It takes years, and it takes time, and it takes energy and effort. And I'm old now. I don't have the energy and effort that I once did before. So baseball, there's a comfort in baseball, but you have to be careful, because you get too comfortable covering something, you get too myopic about it, and you might be missing things. You might not be asking the right questions. So you always have to self-evaluate whatever job you're in. Am I still doing this the right way? Not just with integrity, and not just with ethics, and not just with effort, but is there anything that I'm missing because I've been around this for so long that something may seem normal that's not?
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Lastly, you've had an outstanding career so far. What would your advice be to those of us who not only want to break into this industry, but have a lasting career like yours?
It's a hard one, because the business has changed so much that it is a lot of times inhospitable to people who want to have a family or who want to have a life. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said that my work-life balance is optimal, or is where I would like it to be, or is where it should be, because it's not. And I have a very loving and caring wife who understands that. And I have kids who don't know any better because they've never seen anything different. But as they've gotten older, like, you ask yourself, am I spending enough time with them? Have I spent enough time with them? Are they going to end up on a couch talking to a therapist about how their dad wasn't there? And so you try and fight against that. But the reality is, it's just about work and willingness to put in that time and care about it. And loving what you do goes a really long way. And 2 decades later, I still love what I do.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Your insights and advice were very valuable to me, and I'm sure everyone else on the call. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys for having me. You had great questions, and my DMs are open. So if you guys ever need anything, just follow up with me there. I'm glad to help out if I can.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Once again, this was extraordinary. Like Sydnee said, your advice is amazing and will definitely be put into effect.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
I will. You guys do the same.